welcome back. This is Unglamorous Truths, a podcast about how to make it come hell or high water. I'm Amebit.
I'm Chandra.
I'm Crystal.
And today we have a very, very, very special guest
Very
with
special,
us.
very special.
Y'all better be grateful, okay? Because
Yes.
I am. We have writer, director, producer, Bentley Kyle Evans.
Thank you.
I'm just going to brag on you a little bit. Your credits a bit. He's the creator of Family Time, creator of Partners in Rhyme on All Black, and also the showrunner of Love That Girl, Martin, and the Jamie Foxx Show, y'all.
Yeah.
Yes. Goated. Okay,
Yes.
goated.
It's crazy to have grown up seeing your name in credits and now see the person. You know?
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
It's like
Yeah.
okay, we're making it then.
Right.
Like,
We in the room.
It's cool. You know, if I may, I met when I first met Russell Simmons. I walked up to Russell and I was a fan, and I said, "Hey man, how you doing, man? I'm Bentley Evans." And he goes, "Bentley Evans, I know that name from Martin." Man, you ain't no Bentley Evans. Bentley Evans is white. I was like,
Whoa.
I was like, damn, really? Yeah, okay, now he's very black.
And very me.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Maybe
very
something
interesting.
about the three names. It's the three names, right?
It's a 3-name thing. I made a conscious effort to do that in credits, especially from when I started Martin. Keenan Ivory Wayans, right, was a mentor and an idol of mine.
Legend.
And he said Keenan Ivory Wayans, and I was like, well, I'm gonna use my mama named me Bentley Kyle Evans. I'm gonna use the middle name, and it just kind of stuck. So I hated my name growing up, but it kind of stuck, so I just rolled with it.
Yeah.
I love that. And we would like to start it off with like a fun little kickoff question.
Okay.
So today my question is, if you didn't work in entertainment, what would you do? Like, where would you work? It could be, something like that you're actually really good at, or just something fun that you'd like, I'd definitely give that a shot. For me, I'd work at a silent retreat.
A silent retreat?
I would work at a silent
makes so much
retreat.
sense for her.
Okay. Like, literally the main idea is you don't have to talk to nobody.
Yeah.
And like, I would love that, to just be quiet
That
and
tracks.
still make money. Like,
That's
yes,
dope.
that's incredible.
That would be cool.
That would be so cool. And then you're still getting like whatever, like holistic stuff, but like nobody is yapping at you. And like, I know I work in an industry where talking is the thing. So I'm like, if I didn't do this, I would go completely 180 and be quiet.
Yeah. I think where my interest lies, real estate, one. I think you can get the same feeling of gratification in the real estate that you get in entertainment, because it's still a product. You're still marketing, and you're coming in and putting your creativity on it, and then you turn around and sell it to put it in distribution and sell it. So it's the same kind of thing, I'm also interested in the food area, so I like the idea of being a chef.
Yes.
Yeah,
there.
like if you went all over the world and came back and I was like, okay, I'm cooking on Sunday, I'm doing this Brazilian thing, I'm doing Trinidadian food. I like that idea.
Yeah.
So I would say probably one of the two of those two things, the food industry or real estate. Yeah.
I'd be a homesteader. I'm off the grid with my chickens, my quails, my childrens, my dogs, my crops. Yeah, I'm homesteading.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with any of this.
100% tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's me.
Absolutely.
The two Scorpios are like
That's hilarious.
disengaging from the
Off
world.
grid.
Yeah, I'm a people person and a social butterfly, so I got to be amongst the people. I got to
That's
be
fair.
moving and shaking out there. I thrive off of folks.
Okay. Well, if I could be something else, I would be a choir director and conductor. So, because when I was little, I thought they had the coolest job. I was in a kids choir growing up in DC, and we performed all over town. And the conductor, that moment when they go like this before they drop, and like then you guys all sing, I think is like the coolest thing ever. So.
Super dope. But aren't you cheating the game, because you said the question was if you weren't in entertainment, and that's entertaining.
But that ain't
people.
Hollywood.
You didn't say Hollywood.
I'm thinking
You
like
mean the church?
I'm talking about like high school choir director, or like for teenagers.
All right.
Like in a school type of setting.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You walk a fine.
Yeah.
That would be fun. That's cute. I
Yeah.
I want that for you for your next
Yeah.
life.
Yes.
I can see you doing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the kids.
Yeah.
All right. Now, into this episode that's about, the process of making television then and now, we really want to, honestly, have a fun conversation with you about what it was like for you to, first of all, how did you get from being a PA on Hollywood Shuffle to being a showrunner before 30? Like, what was that?
Man, you know what? When you think back about it, it's like, how did that happen? I think it's because I was so ignorant to what this whole business was. So when you don't know something, you don't know the rules, and you don't follow them because you're not privy to them. So you kind of do things in an unorthodox manner, right? And so what from me, what I did was, first of all, I never grew up wanting to be in the entertainment industry. I grew up around entertainers. I went to school with some kid actors. Neighbors were like Ray Charles, Ike and Tina Turner were neighbors, and I went to school with their kids, and a whole bunch of, they call it the Black Beverly Hills now.
What neighborhood, for those who don't know?
Yeah, View Park, Windsor Hills. So it was like, it was a special feeling growing up there, but never in a million years did I know that I'd be in the entertainment industry. So getting on Hollywood Shuffle, which is a whole different story, I landed there, and I don't even know if I was technically a PA. I was just kind of like a pilot, is what I call it. Pilot over there, pick it up, pilot over there, pilot over there. Whatever I could do just to be down with these guys that were making some positive moves, right? And I was a studier. I'm a quick study. I watch people, and I'm like, ooh. That's why when I came in here, I was like this, ooh, I could build one of these in one of my rooms or something. I don't know. It's just that I watched Robert. I watched Keenan, and that whole clan of people that were names that I had seen before, but I just, they were kind of getting their real start in the game too. And so I knew the first time I read a script, cover to cover, which was Hollywood Shuffle, I said, yo, first of all, I asked Robert, I said, so you wrote this? And he said, yeah. And I was like, but the words though. He was like, yes, I wrote this. And I was like, but I mean, how'd you have I guess in my mind, I just assumed that actors just kind of got on stage and acted. I didn't even think, I didn't think there was, well, some do, yes. But I didn't even think about the presence of a script. And so, I just watched what everyone did on set as I was, getting water for everybody. And I just kind of liked the feeling of feeling like I found something, I found a place where I belong. I was never an athlete. I'm 6'5", but I was never an athlete. Right? And everybody was like, man, I want you on my team, until they got me on their team. And they was like, yeah, I don't know about the next game. We probably going to go a different direction.
Right.
But
being first pick and then not.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was just a quick study, and I was like, if I can just watch what everyone does, and I watched and adored Robert, and whatever they were doing, and these sketches is pretty much what they were doing is what everybody's doing on TikTok now, sketches basically. Yeah. And I just watched and watched and watched, and then I realized that the key to this business is all about relationships, 100%. Talent is second, unfortunately, right? Because it's a lot of very talented people in the game right now, or that are in the world right now, that will never be able to showcase their talents and get it to the world because they just don't have the opportunities. But I just knew that this is where I belonged, and this is what I want to do, and how do I get into the next realm of my career? Well, I got a little bit of advice from Robert. I told him, hey, you write scripts. I want to write scripts. And he was like, slow down, buddy. Hold on. That's what I do. You just do what you do. And I'm like, yeah, but what is that? So basically he told me, if you want to write and you want to produce and you want to be a director like me, you should start out acting. And I was like, I'm not really interested in doing that. Why do you say that? And he was like, well, I think you should start out as an actor, because what happens is you get to get on different people's sets and you start to see the different varieties of genres that are out there, and you start meeting producers, start meeting writers, other fellow actors, and that becomes your world. You become entrenched with it, and there's no prerequisite to becoming an actor. You know, you could be an actor at 3 days old in a Pampers commercial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's no prerequisite to it. So I said, okay, so how do I do that? And he goes, I can't give you the step-by-step on that. You got to figure that out on your own. But just hang out on this Hollywood Shuffle set and go through the experience with me, and it'll blossom. And I worked for him for free for about 2 years. Never received a dime. My parents thought I was absolutely out of my mind, and I was on a pipe dream, and that was in the height of crack cocaine. And they thought,
Your mom was at this point, just sell the crack, boy.
no, I don't know if they thought I was on crack. I was like, is this nigga crazy? What's he talking about?
Smoking.
Yeah, so so to make to expedite the story, it's just like basically going from that to meeting a lot of key people in my life that really were the connectors that got me to where I needed to be. And I can give you some of those if you want to hear them. But bottom line is, once I met Martin Lawrence and we became fast friends, he was new in town, didn't know anybody out here, holidays. I'm like, yo, my mom and them cooking, why don't you come to the crib, you know? And we become buddies. And then when the Martin Show, the first talks about the Martin Show started happening, he started telling me about it. And I said, okay, well, if you ever want to hook your boy up, if it happens, I want to be in that writer's room. And he was like, come on, bro, that's not
how it works.
That ain't what we do. That's the white boys gig, right?
Oh.
That's what he said.
Wow.
He said, come on, Ben, that's what the white boys do. You know how that go. And I was like, yeah, but I want to be in the writer's room. I want to figure that out. And he was like, Ben, I think you should concentrate on one of these roles. We got this Tommy and Cole role you might want to read for. And I was like, no, man, I really want to write, and I'll show you. So he was shooting House Party 2 at the time. And I went down to the set, and I took a stack of scripts that I had already written, because preparation meets opportunity meets success, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I was already prepared. I didn't even know this was going to happen, but I had a stack of scripts that I had written over the year or two. And I took him a bunch of scripts and said, I don't write, huh? Take a read of one of these and just see what you think. So the next day, I get a call from him early in the morning. He says, yeah, man, come out to my house. I want to talk to you. So I shoot out to his place. He's in a little small apartment, no furniture. We sit on the floor. And he says, yo, man, I'm so impressed. I had no idea. You write? I said, yeah. He goes, man, I never knew another black man that could write like this. And at the time, I think I'm 23, something like that. And he was like, yo, man, whatever I do, you got to be my writer. And I was like, okay. I'm telling you, I'm green to the business.
Yeah.
And so he takes me to a couple of meetings at HBO. And I do remember one time they said, Martin, you could come on in. Your friend can have a seat here in the waiting room. Would you like some water, sir? And I was like, yeah, I'll take the water. And he was like, no, he don't want no water. He's coming in with me. And I was like,
that's a real one, yeah.
Okay.
A real one.
Yeah, but at the time, I'm so dumb and so green, I don't even realize what he's doing. So I said, nah, man, don't mess up your shit. And he was like this. Basically, he looked at me like, shut up.
Right.
And just roll with me.
Okay.
So I go in this meeting, and I'm seeing these executives for the first time, and these writers and stuff like that. And Martin said, yeah, this is my writer. And they were like, oh, yeah? They ripped me apart. Straight up.
What did they do?
They were like this, oh, yeah, you're a writer, huh? What do you write? And I was like, well, Keenan and them talking about let me get a sketch on in living color. I got a couple of things that I want to do. And they were like this. No, we don't think that you have the credits to be a writer. Tell us something else. I'm making up stuff. I'm so uncomfortable. And they said, no, Martin, this guy is going to write your show. This guy named John Bowman, who ultimately created the Martin Show. And so John's sitting there, and he's Harvard grad, white boy, just came off In Living Color. He had been around a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at me like, it was a clown session. And I didn't even realize I was being clown. I'm just young and gullible.
Mm-hmm.
So when we leave out of the meeting, Martin says, "Hey man, don't ever do that again." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Don't ever discredit yourself." He said, "These white boys do this shit all the time. Now, if you wanna go with me, we can take this journey together. But if you got self-doubt and you don't know your self-worth, then you maybe we should go different ways." And I was like, "No, I'm with you." And it was a very long ride home because I was trying to understand what he was saying.
Right.
And then I realized, he's really trying to hook me up.
Yeah.
And so when the show took off, they, of course, they said, "You're not going to write his show. You're not going to create the show, but you'll be a writer's trainee on the show." And Martin said, "No, he won't be a writer's trainee on the show. He's going to be a writer on the show. Put him on staff." And that's how I got.
Come on.
Yeah.
Wow.
But-
And then to get the showrunner is a whole different. That's a longer story.
But what a tremendous thing to step into at 23 to have somebody be like, you need to know yourself. You need to not have self-doubt as we move. Because in those early 20s, that's all you really have is a bag of self-doubt. You know?
I was scared. I was like looking at him like, what kind of person are you?
Yeah.
But my experience was different. You see, I was, at the time, I had the comfortability of living in my parents' home still. I was in no rush to grow up. So I'm still at the crib. I'm still partying like crazy. So there was no pressure. Whereas now you're talking about a guy that came out here from the East Coast with the mentality
PG
of,
County.
I got to make it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was like the grit and the grime of coming out of, living in the projects and stuff like. I didn't know what that was. I was like, I'm Flower Child, basically living up in Baldwin Hills, going to high school on the beach.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And you know what?
You know
That
what I mean?
speaks to the East Coast sensibility because I think, or also I'm gonna add Chicago as a grit factor because I do feel like when we started pitching, because we were green as hell too, but we always had an assurance that we had something to say, and we also. It was kind of like, what else do we have to lose?
Right.
Because we were not comfortable California girls, right? Like, we were very much
Very broke.
throwing it on the line. Like, there was a lot of sacrifice, we came from New York and figuring out how to flip a dime into a quarter in New York City. After that, you really can't tell me nothing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel Martin the GOAT on that because, it's like sometimes moving across the country and being just hungry and fresh is the best thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Like,
And one thing I think we came across in these like pitches, like, because we were like, we always are our authentic selves and like telling our true stories, and the cultural like misunderstandings were sometimes overwhelming. Like we had a pitch once it was a network pitch for a show that we ultimately did sell, but we had a character that was dealing with code switching. And it was like a big part of the journey, and like a lot of the pitch kind of leaned into that. And at the end, the executive said with a plain face, like, "Hey, you say this word a lot in your pitch, like code switching. What does that mean?" And we were so stuck. Like, first of all, like growing up, we were told that there were things, there's such things as dumb questions sometimes.
Right.
Or like some things that you should a little bit be embarrassed not to know, or like you need to Google it. But I was like, wow, the audacity of this white woman to just be like, she is the primary culture.
Yeah.
So anything that she doesn't know is okay. Versus like we have to be so tapped into what they're doing. And we have to know what they're into. But it's not the same in reverse. And so like we couldn't even like answer that question. And like our EP had to step in and like, this is what Black people do to make white people feel comfortable.
Right.
Because we were just like, what? Like, how do you not know this girl? So like, were there any instances in working at Martin or Jamie Foxx Show, like, where you guys had to like over-explain cultural experiences, or did you have like a safe space to just do your thing?
Oh no, you had to over-explain it. I mean, for sure. How would they know? I mean, how would they know? They don't know. They still don't know. They think they know, but yeah, no, there were several instances. I mean, you're in that writer's room, and I say it goes both ways because there were a few times that they would use words that I wasn't familiar with, and I'd be like this in my mind, go, wait, what does that mean? What is an epiphany? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you were so smooth about it. We know how to adapt.
Always.
That part.
We're going to figure it out. We're going to say that one more time, and okay, I get the context.
Right.
Now, yeah, definitely when we had to come up with, very colorful dialogue, that Martin made sure that we were very authentic and stayed real with what was happening and with the culture and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like during the early years of the hip hop thing taking over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he wanted to make sure that we were very, very clear in our dialogue and stuff. And so when you would throw out a pitch and nobody but the 2 or 3 black people in the room would bust out laughing, and the white people were like, "What's that? What is that? What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Put that in the script." Nah, I don't really know. See, we need this show to speak to all audiences. And I'm going, yeah. But I mean, we also wanted to speak to our audience. And it was like always that argument. Or if you had a character like Shanae, right? Well, I think that all black people know Shanae. We know her. We know that around the way, ghetto girl, if you will, that's got the long nails, and she might put a little, little click clack, and she might put an S on the end of shrimps, some shrimps or scrimps. We know her because either she's somebody we went to school with, we have her as a cousin, we got her as an aunt. So we know that character. They don't know that character. So it was a lot of times having to really explain to them why Shanae's so funny.
And was this in development before production started?
No,
or
this is
ongoing.
This is ongoing.
Which is so crazy because I feel like you're really a warrior for that, because the external product is so iconic for being so black and so authentic and so beloved. So the fact that you were having these dumbass wars in the rooms when, like, I couldn't tell from watching. I feel like black people
I thought they gave y'all
a whole black
runway.
writers room. Yeah, just run with it.
No, when we started the Martin show, I think there were 8 writers, and no, there were 9 writers, and 3 of us in that first season were black. No, it was 4, but there were we were all very low level writers, so we weren't able to make the decisions. Right. And so, like I said, I started to understand what my value was really, really quick. I'd sit there and I would go, they don't know. Watch me throw this line out here. And they never heard it, but I took it out of a hip hop song. And they never heard it, and they think it's funny. You know what I'm saying? It's like I remember the line was right out of an Ice Cube song. And he said something like, "Man, I'm going to knock her boots from here to Albuquerque," right? They thought that was so funny. And I was like, check, that's funny. They don't know that line. And so stuff like that, where you really had to convince them that this is the way to go. Now, here's the other thing. Martin was so vigilant in his approach to that show that if it came out on page and it was milquetoast, it was corny, he would be like this, "Bentley, come down to the stage for a second." I would come down there. What the fuck is this? Hey, man, I tried to tell him. So then it would be like this. "Hey, John, if Bentley tells you something, put that shit in the script." And yeah, all right, okay, Martin, all right, no problem. So now it's like I'm sitting in the room going, yeah, we don't say sofa, we say couch.
Yes.
They make the change.
Okay.
You start
recognizing
doing
the value.
I start recognizing my value. And you start to feel your power. Like, wow, I'm very powerful in this scenario. So I just started, playing like that, having a good time in the room. And then I had to make sure that I walked the balance of keeping them, making sure that they didn't think that I was Martin's spy. So they could feel free in the room to still talk. So I used to come in waving the white flag. "Hey, guys, I'm with y'all. We riders together. I'm riding and dying with you guys. Don't worry, I'm not gonna tell Martin that you guys be talking about him in the room, because the writers' room is where you talk so much. We talk so much shit about the actors, all of them, on every single show, and we look at all their little idiosyncrasies, and we always do that. So I had to let them know that, nah, man, even though I'm his voice, I'm on you guys' side.
So you do Martin. Were you leveling up on that show? Like your credits are leveling, and then at what point do you get to show running?
So there were a couple of things that happened. So after the first season, that's when I really learned, because we were shooting 27 episodes a season at that time.
Yeah.
So pretty much it's a whole year. You in that writer's room. First thing that I learned was go to Target, get you a blanket and some pillows and a little overnight bag, because there's going to be plenty of nights that you're going to spend the night there.
Yeah.
And so, in that writer's room, it becomes your home. These people become your family. You come in and somebody's sitting in your chair. Well, there were no assigned seats, but you come in and go, "Hey man, you in my seat?" And they're like, "This is not your seat." I'm like, "Nigga, that's my seat. Get up out my seat." Right. So it becomes home. And so it took a year for me to understand what I was doing and understand that this is real. This is not just a hobby. This could be my career, my life forever. And so after that year of learning and really just being entrenched in the whole game, I think what happened for me was the second season, I started asserting myself more. And I started really loving what I was doing, and I was connected to the actors, but I was also connected in the room in a way that they started really respecting my decisions. And the cool thing was, even though I was considered a low-level writer at the time, John Bowman, who ran the room, R.I.P. John, they would let us be in the room for the decision making. So I saw the way that he talked to the executives, and I saw the notes that were being given.
So
I saw it all. It was like literally being a fly on the wall. And I was like, oh, okay. So really, when I get that shot, I'm just going to emulate. I'm just going to emulate him.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what he did. I'm turning into John. Right.
Right.
And so realistically, after I was so valuable in that room, that second season, I jumped from story editor to executive story editor to co-producer so fast, and I had good agents too. That's also a very good thing to have. Good reps that are like, well, we think Bentley should be moved up.
And did you have them before you started the show, or you got them like after one season?
No, I got a funny story if I can share.
Yeah.
It's a really funny story. So I when I was acting, I had a theatrical agent. I can't think of her. Susan Crowe was her name, and so Susan was always sending me on these crazy roles. I'm like, Susan, I can't play 16. I'm 6'5". You got a baby face. You're 16. Anyway, when I did the Martin, when I first got on Martin, I didn't have an agent whatsoever, right? And so, how did it go? It was like, I know what happened. It was like we hadn't even started shooting yet, but I booked a role on a show called Doogie Howser, right? So I booked this role, and they were like talking about, hey, we'll make it recurring if you want. It's a fun role. I was like, cool. So I missed a meeting at the Martin show, and when I got there, Martin goes, and Martin was very serious. He was like this, fuck was you at today? And I was like, oh man, I did this Doogie Howser shit. It was cool. I'm explaining it to him, right? And he goes, hey, Ben, that's cool. And if you want to do that, I'm cool with that. But if you want to do this, I'm going to need you here. So you kind of got to make a decision, like, what's it going to be? And I'm thinking he's hating. But he was basically helping me define what the rest of my life would be. And he was in that moment. And he was saying, you got to decide whether you want to do that or whether you want to take a career in doing this. The choice is yours. I called my agent, Susan, and she said, I have this audition for you. I say, Susan, I quit. She said, what do you mean you quit? I said, I quit as an actor. I'm no longer an actor. She cried.
Oh.
She was like, how could you do this to me? And I was like, she's like, I got stuff set up for you. I said, I know, Susan, but I have to make a decision. And then she said, well, damn, you could at least let me negotiate your deal. And I was like, you're not a theatrical agent, Susan. You're a theatrical agent. You're not a literary agent.
Literary, yeah.
And so she was like, well, she was very disappointed, but I had to make that decision, and I've never seen her again since then.
Wow.
So I had good, so from there I started talking to other writers that are in the room, and I'm like, hey, who's your agent? How do we do this?
Right.
Like, you need an agent. I'm gonna hook you up with this other lady. And I started with this small agency called The Right Concept, which was a cool little boutique agency. And I did that, and then I had a family friend who worked for Mike Ovitz at CAA. Now, Mike Ovitz basically owned the entertainment industry at that time. And so she said, I can get you a meeting with Mike. I said, well, Mike Ovitz? She was like, yeah. So when I go in Mike Ovitz's office, he's on the phone. He never looks at me. He never looked up at me. And she said, this is the guy I was telling you about. He waved his hand like, yeah. So he hangs up the phone. He never looked at me. He said, get him an agent. And that's how I got into CAA. And I was there for 15 years. But I digress in the story. I had good reps. CAA was the biggest agency in Hollywood at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was good. So that helped me kind of escalate through the minutia and get to the next level of the game.
Right.
Right. So by season 3, well, Martin was rocking and rolling. We're a hit show. He's not getting along with a lot of showrunners and different people that they had coming through. And so I get a phone call, and I'm thinking I'm getting fired. I really thought I was getting fired. And they were like, can you come to HBO in Century City? We need to talk to you. And I'm like, here we go. All good things come to an end. And so I go into this meeting, and Chris Albrecht, who was running HBO, and they're the production company for Martin. Chris says, hey, man, I need something from you. And I said, what's that? He said, do you think you're in a position to run the show?
Woo!
Wow.
Come on.
3rd season. I said, what? He said, do you think that you
Don't
can...
let that imposter syndrome come
Right,
in.
exactly. And I was like, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah. So he was like, well, we're getting ready to start season 4, and we would like it very much if you could do that. And he said, but here's the thing. You're not going to like the next part of the conversation. I said, okay, what's the next part of the conversation? He says, I'm not going to pay you.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
I'm sitting here holding my breath because I know I'm like,
money.
come
Yep.
on.
What?
Yep. He said, I'm not going to pay you executive producer, showrunner money. I'll pay you supervising, producing money. And he goes, but if you do it for a season, I guarantee you I will change the outcome of your career. So I'm insulted and complimented at the same time. I get to the car and I call my agent and I tell him what just transpired. And he said, well, Bentley, you got to make a decision. I said, what do you think? He goes, it's a cold game out there. And he said, but I'm just going to be honest with you, man. Now, this is Joe Cohen. He was my agent at the time. He's a Jewish guy. He says, I mean, I know it's unfair, but what you going to do? Yeah. I was like, well, at least he's being real with me. So I said, well, you know what? I'll take the job and I'll just make sure that I'm the best at it. And so I took the job. I was the youngest showrunner in Hollywood at that time, black or white. And I just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to just do this. And so I did that, and so many other great things happened as a result of it. And that's what got me to get a great meeting with Warner Brothers to get a real deal there to go ahead and create the next thing that I was going to do, which was Jamie Foxx Show.
Wow. And you were like the showrunner from day one.
Oh, yeah. Created the show and showrunner from day one.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And so with now you are in charge, you are the showrunner. Like, was there pushback in terms of wanting to get black voices in there? Were you able to do that in terms of the writing? That smile.
Yeah, I smile like that because I think it's still a struggle unless you're doing your own thing. Which independence, I really applaud anybody who's independent enough to take matters into their own hand.
Yeah.
I applaud them. I've read some really bad stuff, but I go, it's good because they did it. I've seen some stuff on Tubi and I'm going, yo, that's horrible. But I shouldn't say nothing because they got a film done.
Yep.
So I got to give them their props. You know what I mean? Because I know how hard it is to get a film done. So it's that challenge was there then. It's still there now. Whenever I would make suggestions to bring somebody else in, they'd have to vet them. Well, I don't know. Let's look at this. What's the resume? And I'm like, trust me, this is the funniest guy I know, and he got jokes for me. So yeah, there were still a lot of times where we had to really, really convince them. Even going back to Martin, when we wanted to do the characters that Martin made so famous on the show, the network and the production company hated all of them. They liked Shanae, and pretty much that was it.
Did like Brother Man?
They didn't understand Brother Man.
Okay.
They didn't understand, like, why wouldn't he call the police? And I'm like, no, we don't do that. That's not our community. We would have been like, nigga, if you don't keep coming through my window, he's harmless.
Right, he's so harmless. He's stealing sandwiches. He's hungry.
He's hungry. He's probably high.
Yeah.
Just got off his little gig.
Very nice man.
He's a very nice, respectful guy.
Yeah.
His politics are just wrong.
Right.
But they didn't like the characters
Romy
that
Rome.
Martin played. They hated Romy Rome. They hated him.
I know y'all ain't hating on Dragonfly Jones now.
Dragonfly Jones.
No, y'all not.
They didn't like Dragonfly Jones, but that was a very complicated character because it was like that was the only character that we gave Martin that he didn't that he was like, y'all didn't put nothing on the paper for me. We were like, well, you just said you want to play this kung fu master. And he was like, I'll take it into my own hands. And he really dug deep and worked and created what we saw.
Wow.
He did that. He did that. All that ad lib stuff. It was so funny that, I mean, literally, I almost got kicked off stage. I'm laughing uncontrollably because I'm going, but I'm also looking at the brilliance in this man who's 20-something years old. That's digging deep, that's finding these moments that would define what this show was. Culture.
Period.
Yeah.
Straight up.
And really made those networks what it was.
Yes.
Elevated Fox to what it was. And I feel like after, Martin, Jamie Foxx Show, like Living Single, all the black shows, they really just turned their backs on black television once they kind of garnered that audience.
They did. That's what they do. It's like when you go back and look at the history of television, NBC, CBS especially, and ABC. Those were the only three networks. And with CBS, they did a sitcom, I believe, called Beulah. And it started with Hattie McDaniels playing Beulah, but then they changed the actress. But that was like the first sitcom on television, right? And it's what built CBS. They had taken it from a radio show and put it on TV. So they've always started with us. Amos and Andy, I'm sure you guys know about that, where some people are ashamed of Amos and Andy, but I thought it was brilliant because it was what we had at that time.
Yeah.
And it was what we could do at that time. And so you can't get mad at a Step and Fetch It at that time that was making a living.
Yeah.
He was considered a coon by our own people, but that's what we do to each other. We tear each other down. We don't build each other up. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate, but we don't. And the thing about it is, it was just what they had to deal with at the time.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the resources to do other things.
Well, yeah, and there's no advocate in charge either. There's no blackface making the decisions at that time that could be like, hey, we ain't gonna have this man do that.
Yeah, there was no rules.
We're gonna stop the bug eyes.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's really wild to me. I think we all know this fact, but I learned this in the last few years about the Living Single trajectory of like it establishing the network, and then they went and made Friends, and that became the mainstream. All the white people were like, oh, we love Friends, ha ha ha, I'll be there for you. But literally the creators of that said, oh, that was Living Single. That literally is Living Single. We just made it white.
No, it really is. It really is. I mean, the way that they did Yvette Lee Bowser, she was Yvette Lee at the time when she created that show. They wouldn't even let her executive produce and showrun that show. It was her creation, but they wouldn't let her do it the first season. They made her change the name. I forgot what it was called before it was Living Single, but they were trying to control the narrative. And she was like, nah, you guys got to let me do my thing. Fortunately for her, second season, she came in, show ran it, and it became a hit. But that's exactly what they built Friends off of. But that's what they've been doing from the beginning. We are, people of color are the people that move the needle. We buy the products that they're advertising. We're the ones that spend the most money out of any other race out there. And so they take advantage of that, and then they go, okay, now we've built an audience off of them. Now let's slide more mainstream stuff in there so that now our audience will come in, and we got it from here, pal. You see what I'm saying?
But you know what though? I'll add.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the info.
Yeah.
We got it from here.
We got it here.
But it's not just about the consumers; it's the creators, because it's like we got the fucking sauce.
Yes.
Like we are the talent. So it's not just about manipulating consumer markets. It's like, no, y'all are the purists. Y'all bring what needs to be brung, and then we're gonna sprinkle some salt on it. And
we're going to sprinkle some salt on it. And then you find out that the Nielsen ratings, the way that they rate everything, how can that be fair? When I'll ask the three of you guys. You guys know anybody who has a Nielsen box?
No.
You ever met anybody?
Yeah.
You used to.
Yeah. You had to be
they
selected.
would select
You have to be
people
selected.
in the middle of the country most
Wait.
of the time.
Yes.
Shut up.
Yes.
That's a real box.
That's a
I
real
thought they were-
box.
I thought it was every television.
No,
No.
as a child, I would ask my parents all the
No.
time, "Can we be these people? I want to be part of the people rating." And they were like, "Well, don't worry like that."
In
No one
my
sent us
life,
anything.
I've been alive 5 decades, right? I think I've met 2 people in that time that I've heard of say, yeah, we were a Nielsen family when we were growing up, right?
I want to meet these people.
Exactly. So what that says is, when you think about it, it's like, so they're basically saying one household represents maybe 10,000 people.
They're watching patterns.
That they're
and
watching
habits.
patterns.
And these are all white people because you don't know nobody who
Thank
had
you.
one.
They
Thank
in
you.
Ohio
so
somewhere.
this is all based.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So I'll tell you guys I'll share this funny story with you, that when we did the Jamie Foxx show, so what they used to do is once you did a pilot, they would test it with an audience. And so we did a Jamie Foxx show. They tested our show with an audience, and it was black and white, you know, it was mixed gender, the whole 9 yards, right? And we tested so high. No one ever talks about this because they swept it under. We were the highest tested pilot in Warner Brothers history.
Whoa.
Wow.
I'm going to say that again. We were the highest tested pilot in Warner Brothers history. So it tested so crazy that they said, we got to do a retest.
Of course.
Of course, that's the
Of
white
course.
way.
Right.
Of course.
I didn't
Y'all
win?
can't be
Right.
the best.
Hold on.
Y'all
on
Jamie,
steroids. We gotta check it.
Count
Jamie-
the votes.
Now, mind you, Seinfeld's already on the air. Friends is on the air, and they're shooting on the same lot as us. So many others, Suddenly Susan with Brooke Shields and all these other shows. And we tested the highest, right? So now when they do the retest, they never gave us the results. They just picked the show up.
Yeah.
But they never gave us the results.
Yeah.
They picked the show up, and we go do our 100 episodes. But I guess the point that I'm making is that the testing system was like, it was like, you can't trust it now, because if we know the results of what it was, how can we ever trust the Nielsen ratings to tell the truth? How do we know that the Jamie Foxx show is not bigger than Friends?
Right.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
You can never know.
Yeah.
So the advertising dollars go to Friends, and their creators make more money than I did, and the rest is history.
You know what? Y'all can suck a. Okay.
You know what I'm
that's just how I
saying?
feel.
Tell them.
Like,
Say
for
that
real.
again.
We're going to transition to a segment called Bootleg Fabulous, where we give tips and tricks on how to make it on a shoestring budget. And I want to know, like, what is your everyone's secret to a killer pitch? For me, it's my intro and wrap up. I got that on lock. Like, I'm going to make you fall in love with me. So it doesn't matter whatever I say in between this intro and this wrap up. You don't agree with it, you're like, I want to fuck with her. Like, I want to be in business with her. And we can work out those kinks of the things I don't agree with later.
Yeah. Mine is just you got to make it relatable to you. So even if you got to lie and say that this is a real story that happened to you,
Yeah.
that usually hooks them in. That usually hooks them in. Like, it's like almost like, hey, you know what? I have a sister. and my sister is a lawyer, but she can't keep a man. And so this character is and then you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I use that
Yes.
as a way to really make it relatable so that they understand that you know this character very well and we trust you with it.
Yes, and that's so important because I actually, I literally teach people how to pitch now, and that's the factor that I feel like people, it's the biggest blind spot, which is make it personal and attach yourself to it.
Yes.
Because the way this business works is you have a great idea, but they just gonna attach someone else to it if you are not integral to that process. If you can't attach your authenticity to it, like, hey, this is based off of some real shit and only I can tell this story, then they may be like, we like that idea. Can we repackage that and someone else do it? Right? You need to be in the mix in your pitch. Like,
Yeah. And also, as concise as possible. Getting to those points, hitting those points, and then of course I'm always going to try to make a joke at the end and basically say something like stupid, like, so when do we start? And so we're buying this in the room now. I don't know if they're still doing that, if that's how it goes anymore. Yeah.
I'm just authoritative in the sense of I like to be very clear that I know this story and these people very, very well. So that there's no question, there's nobody else. And whether I have thought about all the points, I like to make you feel like I've thought about everything. You have a question, I have an answer.
Yes. And with that, we are Unglamorous Truths. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Amebe. You can find me at Amebe Bayene.
I'm Chandra Russell. You can find me at Chani.
I'm Crystal. You can find me at _Chris.
I'm Bentley Evans, Bentley Kyle Evans, but Bentley Evans on everything, at Bentley Evans, Twitter, Instagram. What's the new one?
Thread,
all of them.
You thread?
At Bentley Evans.
And you can find our podcast wherever you find yours.